Good evening, everyone. Hello, how you doing today? What is going on, my friends? I've got the new microphone and everything set up. I tested it earlier with people from Discord, and we had no crackling, no popping. I think everything's been working since we moved it to a different plug. Everything's been fine. So hopefully that continues. Let me know if you see or have any issues here with the sound, but hopefully everything is actually all good this time, and we have no problems. But how you guys doing tonight? Have you been watching the Champions League games, keeping up with everything going on there? I think a lot of people are still wrapping up the latter parts of those games. Chelsea are severely overrated. I mean, it's early. I don't want to say much because we're going to play them at the weekend. We're going to play them at the weekend, and I'm like, I don't want to say too much about Chelsea right before we play them. But they're not that good. Unfortunately, we're not either. So don't get me wrong there. They're not that good. We're not that good either. So this isn't like, oh, here we go. I can turn it up a little bit more. So that doesn't do too much for us. But yeah, it is what it is. Okay. This is where they have some few good players, but they haven't done all that much within £2 billion. Like regardless of what happens to us, Chelsea have vastly underachieved for their spending. Vastly. It's incredibly overrated. I was listening to Jamie Carragher, because with him and Michael Richards and all that are in that show in Paramount and all of that, and and he was talking about that exact thing with Chelsea. He was saying, look, you're not talking about some failed team that Todd Bowley took over here. You're talking about a team that had just won a Champions League, that is perennially under Abramovich. They were competitive or winning titles here and there. He's come in, made massive changes, spent $2 billion, and people are acting like it's a success because he won a made-up trophy. It's not. It's not a success. It's not a success at all. At this point in time, what Chelsea have done is certainly not the model. The amount that they've spent and what they've done to put out a team that is still fairly mediocre is really, really poor. They might spend their way while breaking every rule in the book, selling hotels, stripping the club apart, and get where they need to be, but it's certainly not like a model I would sit and say, well, that's the one to follow. You know what I mean? That's the one to follow. Certainly that wouldn't be my take on it anyway. But hey, whatever. We've got our own problems, don't we? We have to play them, and I worry, unfortunately, that we are once again playing a team coming off of getting battered. But that sucks. I wish it wasn't the case, because people are going to look and say, oh, they lost midweek and they're struggling and this and that, and they just drew to Brentford on the weekend, and once again people are going to look at us as like not the underdogs at home. I don't like that. We're shit. Okay, so for this week, we're shit. We are definitely the underdogs, and we need to go into the game with that mentality, that fight or die type of mentality. Not the expectation, mentality. Yeah, so did we. Of course. We lost as well. Any news on Mountain Cunha? So the last thing, it was a good question because someone was just asking me that as well. The last I'd heard, Cunha feels like he could play, and he felt like he could play last week, so he should hopefully be there this weekend. But I mean, I haven't actually heard. I haven't actually looked into it. I've kind of forgot about looking into it a bit because I've just been so stressed out. I'm just been so stressed out about things. Guys, it's rough, man. it is rough out here, and I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate you all hanging out. And I know that a lot of you and many of us share so many different opinions on United, but the truth of the matter is, man, it's rough. We were talking about different things last night, and I was looking into like the wins and our record and things like that for like the last some years, and man, we have been in the dumps for a long time. Like we were just talking in Discord about the Patreon, in the Patreon about Champions League, and we're talking about like when the last time we had like one of those really good Champions League nights or something like that. And we were talking about Paris, you know, that night in Paris, and that was Rashford that long ago on the penalty and all of that. It was 6 years ago, man. I had my 4-week-old son in my arms, sleeping, newborn, fresh, when we scored that goal and I screamed and woke him up. He's in first grade. For those of you in the US, I think it's not that dissimilar, but like 6 years old, man. And he was 4 weeks old the last time we had a good night. The
He'll
last
coach
time.
us in the championship, we'll back him cause we're ignorant, he'll send the Reds down, Ruben Amorim.
Appreciate your perspective. Liverpool have just been drawn 2-2. Llorente again. Wow. Llorente's crazy, man. What a player that is. Incredible. Good for him. That's good to see. That's good to see. Well done, Atletico. Liverpool have been jammy. I mean, Liverpool have been insanely jammy. You know what I mean? They really have. They really, really have. I saw a tweet earlier saying with 25 players at the club signed under 7 different managers. Yep, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Totally. But yeah, man, it's rough. It's rough. It's been tough out here, and we're sitting here like, wherever you sit, man, it sucks. We have not watched United be good for a long, long time, and it feels like, you know, it feels like it could be. It just feels like it could be. When is it going to change? You know, when are we going to do better? But, you know, I try to be positive for that reason, because it's so easy to get down in the dumps. Like we were kind of talking about this, this thing of like, well, we haven't won a couple of games in a row, obviously in the Premier League or something like that for a while. And then I was looking back and I was like, last year, yeah, that didn't really happen. And then I was like, how often did we actually win like 3 or 4 games in a row? And I went back through like years and years and years in the Premier League. We've had like 1 or 2 stretches of actually stringing like 3-4 games together in like 5+ years. It's painful. It is so painful. I think the only real stretch is you know, during the Rashford heater in Ten Hag's first full season, but otherwise it's been rough. But there are some things I want to talk about today. Yeah, 22-23, and that was just that one stretch, and then it just was like, man, and then it was just gone again. And we started that season awful. And I realized something really funny, by the way, which we'll come back to in a minute. I did realize something really funny. Every single one of our managers that we've had, practically every single one, has come into the club and in their first full season, like 3-4 games into the year, they're in this crisis about changing tactics and everything, right? So I remember it's been like this at every start of every season, and it's been unbelievably painful. I mean, it just has, and it's been like this for years. Ten Hag came in, first couple of games, gets smacked, has to change his tactics. You know, change your tactics. Midfield's not working. All that, changes his tactics. Solskjaer came in, we were getting absolutely smacked. We won the first game 4-0, and then it went really bad. And then he found McFred and like kind of rode it out to January with McFred until he got Bruno Fernandes into the team. Even Jose, we had like this brief spell, and then he was like, no, we're not going to be any good. You guys remember second season Jose Mourinho, where we started out like 4-0? Where we started out 4-0. We were like 4-0 FC. We had those first few games winning 4-0. And then we remember that we had an international break, and then we went to Liverpool away. Do you guys remember that at Anfield? And we thought we were really good. And we went to Liverpool away, and he just parked that fucking bus. Like, you would never believe he parked that bus. It was so deep. We grinded out that 0-0 to Liverpool at Anfield. And then from there, it was just defensive park to bus football. And it was like crazy. Like sometimes it was positive, sometimes it was negative. But every time we got like into the season, and then the manager's like, we got to change. We got to change what we were doing. And we finished second that season, which is the crazy part. But we were playing so defensive. Like that was the Arsenal game as well, right? With De Gea and all of that. Like, holy shit, man. We were playing so defensive after that initial start to that team. And then it just went back and back and back, and yeah, it was just crazy. We've been at this so many times, you know. Players go in, team goes in, team gets going, things don't work, and then we have to change, and then we fail, and it's like, oh man, it is rough. It is rough. It's been like this for a long time, but there are a few good things. There are a few good things that hopefully will someday translate to the pitch itself, hopefully, but they do have to. And the one of them is finances, and that's where we could kind of start, you know, today in talking about the financials and all of that, because one of the things we had to do that when Ineos came in that had to be done, whether you like it or don't like it, is to fix the finances. And that resulted in obviously extra turbulence, extra cost savings, extra limitations, and all of that, right? Because we had been losing, I think it was 500 million over 3 seasons. And we're quite literally up against the brink of financial ruin, as well as completely handcuffed by PSR. Situations where everything was sell to buy, everything was depart to spend, all of that. As Palmer got one back again. Palmer's so good, man. Palmer is really, really good. But, you know, like, we had to, and we had no choice in the matter on this. We had to fix this. We had to change the finances. We were losing absolutely so much money. And they've done that. And without that being fixed, we probably would have nothing left to do without fixing the finances. And I can't believe that they disclosed they paid you 200K for. Yeah, I know. I was on the balance sheet, right? I wish, man. That would be nice. But really, it was so bad. It was so bad. Over the last 12 months, what they've done on the financials, at least, is resolve things so that we can build a team. Because we were done. Where things were heading, we were literally done. We were never going to be able to build a team again. And I'll give you the equivalent right now so you can kind of understand the problem at this point in time, okay? Which is that our wage bill now, in order to get the finances under control, cutting the wages, cutting the staff, getting everything, because our expenses were so bad, we had to put the wage bill down. Do you know our wage bill is now, I think, 5th, the same as Newcastle's, and we still have some pretty big spenders that need to go, and will be replaced, of course, but by lower wage bills. I kind of did a look back a week ago. I did a video during the break about the rebuild and the wages and things like that, and how we were always like first and second in wages and vastly underperforming that. We've had to drop down to be significantly lower. Yeah, our wage bill is lower than Arsenal's for the first time. It's lower than City's. It's lower than Liverpool's. But we had to. That's the problem. We've literally had to drop our wage bill to the 5th highest in the Premier League because we didn't have a choice. With big Manchester United would have gone broke if we didn't drop our wage bill to 5th. And that's the reality of where we're at now. The intention, of course, will be to build it back up. You get back into Europe, build back up the wage bill. It's not intended to stay at 5th, but that is where Arsenal were. That is where Liverpool were. That is how they built up their clubs, is from that position. So it's not like, it can't be done, won't be done, or there's nothing to it. It's just we had to. That's how bad the financials were. We had to build from the bottom. We had to drop things down into 5th, into the 5th highest wage bill in order to, get where we needed to be. And we gave, and if you still look at the top of it, if you still look at the top of what's there, Casemiro, Luke Shaw, some of these guys that need to be gone, like they need to be gone. And it's crazy in that respect. But this is the mistakes that we've made for such a long, long time. You know what I mean? That have driven us into the brink of collapse. Where we are today, if you watch the finance video from earlier, where we are today as I can read it, the PSR handcuffs are gone. Our losses from a PSR standpoint should be significantly below the cutoff point. And factually, there's a world where we turn a profit this season, which would be a good thing. We probably wouldn't turn the profit because if we have a profit, we'll just go spend that money, which is the idea, right? It's all going to be reinvested back into the club. But the point is that we genuinely have the ability right now to finish, to have essentially unlocked the finances where we're not limited anymore by the financials in the way that we are. Liverpool winner, of course. The jammiest club in the history of fucking jams. The jammiest club in history. It always happens. It's unbelievably inevitable. Now tell me this. It's not mentality. Mentality has nothing to do with it. Forget the manager for a moment. Mentality has nothing to do with it. You don't think there's anything to do with mentality why Liverpool can do this every game for years and years and years? We hated it. People made fun of their mentality monsters shit that they used to say. Fools, man. Fools. The mental side of sports is so fucking massive. It's so massive. It's almost everything. And people underrate it all the time. They underrate it all the fucking time, man. They just do. It is mental momentum. It's years and years and years of success to get there, but they built it in the beginning. You know what I mean? They built it in the beginning and they've ended up in that position. And that's the part that's just unbelievable. But it is mental. Our players are fucking broken, man. Cunha maybe not for Chelsea, but all right, fair enough. Yeah, It's just goals win games even if you suck, yeah. And Liverpool haven't even been good. They just fucking score, man. They just fucking score goals. But we've been like this for a long time. We've been like this. I was saying when I was looking at Kvaratskhelia scoring his goal, I was like, who in United will have ever, who in United in recent times will have the balls to just go, run, and try to score? You know what I mean? And just go, just take a goal on and just go and score. You know? The mental side doesn't just come from winning games. Winning does improve upon that, but it is not everything. Liverpool were a mentally strong side before they started winning. They were a mentally strong side before they were winning everything. They were a mentally strong side for a few years in there before things went off and all of that. They just were, you know? And I don't know where that exactly comes from or how it comes from, but they cleared out a lot of people, they brought in a lot more, and they built that kind of culture. You know, they did. They built that kind of culture. I don't know how we're ever going to get that. Ours has gotten worse and worse over the years. But I do honestly think that the players are just broken. Honestly, I think they're just broken. It feels like they're broken. And you know, when I did my review of the derby, okay, when I do my review of the derby and looked at it, the weakest player on the pitch mentally is the captain. And we're never going to get away with that. And you can excuse it all you want, but he is the weakest player on the pitch mentally. He's the first one to break, the first one to lose his head, the first one to start yelling at people during games. It's just the reality. He is the weakest, but he's been here a long time. And I think he's just completely burnt out. I mean, he's always been a bit like emotional, but it's different now. It's different now. What I saw on Sunday was the same thing I saw against Fulham from him. And I think that the team is broken. And that when you look at Bruno, he is, like you're somebody saying there, the captain's behavior is a microcosm of the rest of the team. And he is. It's not a scapegoat era. He's been broken by this club from being here for so many years of failure. He just has. He's been here through so much shit. Like I said before, trauma doesn't make people stronger. Trauma doesn't make people stronger. Failure doesn't just like automatically make people better. More often than not, it's the reverse. And when it happens time and time again, you just get broken. You just get broken. You just fade. And when I look at what happens, you know, yelling at your 19-year-old center back who's in his second season for your mistakes isn't the answer. You start to just expect it. You just start to expect it. It's like you're expecting things to go wrong. You think things will go wrong. You know, and yeah, do you remember I told you that I worked for a club in the Premier League as a regional scout? You did. Yeah, you did, Sagiv. They look for reaction to adversity is very important, especially in a player. I would agree. Did Postecoglou and Forrest get knocked out by Swansea, by the way? 25 players from 7 managers still need to get rid of. But look at the players, what happens. Look at, like I say, the biggest thing that I can tell is look at what the players do when a goal is conceded, whenever we concede, and look who reacts and how. And it's pervasive throughout the team. And I'm not leaving it on Bruno. He's here. People are like, leave it on Bruno, and then every single message they send is about Emrim. No, I'm not leaving it. Until he changes, it's going to be a problem. And that applies to a lot of people. You know what I mean? We have to have changes.
Chelsea lost to Bayern. Liverpool narrowly beat Atletico. Teams are there for the taking if tactics are right and players and manager show courage.
Yeah, I agree, Sub. I agree. But it's not just him. You know, I see the exact same thing with Luke Shaw. Every time something goes wrong, it's KG calls him casual Luke Shaw, and we see it a lot. And that is what it is. It's casual. It's always like, well, another loss, another mistake. Oops, my bad. You know, it's like, but it's guys, it's a lot of guys who've been here a long time that react this way, you know, and then in the minutes afterwards, they get worse. That's what you can always tell. After we concede, who gets worse? Who picks up the fire and who gets worse? That's the question. Okay. And it wasn't, and unfortunately, it wasn't just Sunday. Fulham was the exact same thing. Do you remember the shit with getting bumped by the referee and complaining about it afterwards? It is not just Fulham. It was not just City. It's 2 out of the 4 Premier League games already. You know what I mean? It's 2 out of the 4 Premier League games already that we're seeing this lost. You know, this head loss, this inability to stay focused, you know? Now somebody will say, so I know somebody said, you know, Ruben Amorim isn't a mental monster or something like that as well. The interesting thing is, like, maybe he isn't. I don't know. But certainly that was not the case at Sporting. At Sporting, he was pretty much known for his passion and his fight and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's been broken by the United environment as well. Beats me, man. Because that is quite the opposite of what he's been over the course of his career. He's been to a degree a passion merchant as a manager at Sporting. So I don't know. You know, maybe he's broken too. We'll see. As well, I don't care if it's not Sporting. I'm talking about the man's personality. Clearly, something else has gone wrong. Do you think Amorim likes this head loss of Bruno? No, but if he doesn't change it, then he's endorsing it. I said that after Fulham. If he doesn't make a change, then he's endorsing it, and that makes him just as his fault. And I say that about every manager, by the way. So, like, when Ten Hag, when we had the midfield and it was a donut, okay? And it was a donut. People said, oh, we don't have the midfielders for it. Okay, and I was like, all right, but, like, if he keeps it going and doesn't change the players being selected or something like that, then he's endorsing the way that we play. We were playing a super deep defensive line. If that stays that way, then he is endorsing it. You either fix it or you're endorsing it. And that same thing goes for Amorim. If he doesn't fix some of the things that are wrong, then he is endorsing it and making it okay. You know, that's the problem that I see. And that's exactly where that is too. So, what I am very curious about, well, let me finish on the financials and I'll get to this. Anyways, again, on the financials, where we're at really is we no longer have any limitations as far as PSR, as far as I can tell. Like, pretty much none. We can spend whatever we need to. We can definitely spend in January. We can definitely go moving forward. Now, if we don't get back into Europe on a regular basis, we will be limited. We can spend 150, we can buy players, we can do all of that, we'll be okay. If we do not get back into Europe, we'll end up having to curtail spending again in the future. If we get back into Europe, realistically, we can do what anybody else can do. Realistically, we can do what any of the other big clubs can do, and we can get back and compete with them.
2 biggest mistakes from Ineos relate to a failure to commit to the rebuild. Last summer, not firing Ten Hag, and this summer, not selling Bruno.
Look, I don't disagree with you on that. In the start of summer, I looked at it and I said, we probably should. You know that I was pretty pro that at that time. I was like, it's probably the right call to move Bruno at this time and take the money and commit to the rebuild. And I still think that was that first instinct was probably correct, that was the right thing to do. So look, I do agree with you. I think the biggest mistake, here's the thing about it. I'm not actually sure we'd be loads better immediately. We might end up in the exact same situation if we had, and people would flip around and be saying, that's what happens when you sell your best player. That's what happens when you sell your captain. You lack leadership, and here you are not winning games. Probably what would have happened. We still probably should have done it, because at least then there was an explanation of like, it would have explained like, hey, we're moving forward. You know what I mean? We got young players and all of that. So, and it, of course, would have allowed us to get other midfielders, but yeah, for sure, that's about that. But yeah, we can spend what we need. If we get back in Europe, we can spend whatever we need. The handcuffs really are gone. They really are gone. So now we at least have the ability to look at it. And when I look at the club as a whole, in terms of what needed to be fixed, we had no chance of winning titles. Besides fooling ourselves, we had absolutely no chance of winning titles, okay, without this stuff being fixed. So, I look at it and I think that it's one thing where it's like, they actually do deserve a lot of credit for this as owners, because as owners, what they've come in and done as owners, what their primary responsibility is as owners to start was to fix the financial state of the club so that we were capable of competing financially with other clubs. They have done that. And we were not. We were on the brink. We were on the brink of going multiple seasons without being able to spend anything, without being able to rebuild a team. On that front, they've done well, and that was necessary, okay? The next thing, the investment in the facilities within have been better. Our medical department is working better. Carrington is better. A lot of the basic stuff is better, okay? We've appointed football people. I think that's better. The football people, I think, have done a very good job in general, not a perfect job, have done a much better job at turning the squad over and improving in recruitment. We are signing good players. We are signing the right types of individuals. We are signing people we should be signing. We are fixing and not making massive mistakes. We are. We factually are signing the right people, okay? So that's a lot of good stuff that is happening. Without doing any of that, we never had a chance at winning a title. With doing all that, it doesn't guarantee you wins, but it certainly allows you to win. Really, the final piece of the puzzle, and it's the hardest part of it, is putting that all together on the pitch, because you still just have to go out and perform no matter what's happening. But I see as what they've done
James,
is
more time than 4 games.
Fair enough, Glenn. What I see we have done is at least fixed the foundations. Are we gonna fix the rest? I don't know, man. Nobody can know how this is going to work out in the future. Nobody can know if we're going to get the right coach, if we're going to get the right manager, if everything's going to work, if they're going to put it all together. It doesn't matter. We could sack one manager. We could bring in Iraola. That's not going to guarantee that that's going to work for sure. It isn't going to guarantee it, but we'll see, what actually happens at the end of the day. So a lot of what they've done, I think, as owners has done well. I think we've done the right thing in general to set the club up to be able to succeed. And there's a difference. Now it's on the people who are there on the ground to say, go and get results. If they don't get results, and however long, then it becomes ownership's job to step in. Now look, Jim Ratcliffe is not as patient as probably most people in football. Okay? He's not. He's not going to accept us continuing to lose games for too long. He does have that firm belief of where we need to be this season for a few reasons. One, because he's a fan and he wants us to actually win games and actually do well like all of us. 2, he has big plans for this club. The next phase after financial stability include the stadium, the regeneration project, a rejuvenation project, all of those types of things, right? And if we aren't good, if we cannot get back into Europe regularly, then that doesn't work for him. And that is the measure to which they're all going to be judged against by Jim Ratcliffe. Are we going to get back into Europe or not? If we're not, you're failing. And the thing about it is, this isn't an Omar and Wilcox versus, above Amorim thing. It's like he said, they're in like group chats, you know what I mean? I know you can make fun of the jokes and the gifs and the things like that coming out and all of that, right? So it's together, and they've had discussions of like, look, this does need to improve. Results do need to improve. Results do need to get better. We all know that. Whatever you guys need to do, get the results to improve. There has been pressure on that. And they'll look at it and they're saying, look, we do think there's progress. We do think the results are going to catch up and all of that. Fine. He will still look at it and say, we need results. The funny thing is that Jim Ratcliffe should be the fans' best friend, to be quite honest. I know why he's not. I get it. There's a lot of good reasons why the rich billionaire should not be the fans' best friend, and there's things like the ticket prices and all that, which is completely understandable. But in essence, he's the best representative fans actually have in terms of wanting success. You know what I mean? In terms of not really buying the bullshit if there is bullshit. Okay.
If we had sold Bruno, I just wonder if we might have had De Gea type situation if the players felt like he was kicked out and then they blame Amorim.
Maybe. I mean, look, that's part of the problem, but then clean out the rest of the dressing room. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to feel that way? Shaw, Dallo, get them the fuck gone too. Why are they still here? You know what I'm saying? Get them gone too. I mean, in summer, it was Sir Jim who basically pushed them to not be irresponsible, but be a bit more aggressive in the market, right? To go do that Mbumo thing. Let's just get it done. Let's just, you know what I mean? The ice trip, the fishing trip in Iceland thing, right? Like, he is that guy. In essence, he is kind of, I know, it's a terrible thing to say, fans' best friend, but in some respects, he is. Because he's the first owner we've had. Obviously, we've had the same owners for a long time. He just wants results. You know what I'm saying? He's not interested in top 4 for the long haul. He's not interested in just doing enough. He wants us to win a title and have sporting excellence. That desire has not actually existed from the top at United for a long time. It hasn't. It just hasn't. It just hasn't. And it does now. And so in that respect, he's going to, you say fans, look, the club aren't going to worry about fans putting pressure on things like that. Okay? The fans aren't going to worry about, the club aren't going to worry about, fans saying this, fans want manager out, fans want this and that. They don't really care about that. But Sir Jim sitting in the stands and being upset, that matters because he's a fan. So even if it doesn't matter what fans really think in this respect, it matters what he thinks and how he's feeling. It matters how he is feeling, So he will be pushing for that. And it's not his job as the owner to to pick the manager and to sign the right players and all of that. You know what I mean? But it is his job to change and work. So somebody asked, does that mean Wilcox and Omar's job are on the line? I mean, to a degree, yeah. To a small degree, yes. Last year, things got tense. But they are at a top level. They always are at top level, by the way. But things got tense. After they kept Ten Hag in the summer, and then that first October break, the next one that's upcoming, Actually, the one that just happened, it was already really tense because he didn't want to keep him in the first place. They kind of convinced him to keep him, and then it was still going bad. And then he was like, "You better fucking fix this, by the way, or it's gonna be your ass on the line next, right?" And what happened was Dan Ashworth was taking too long. He went into the October one, we had 8 points. Went into the weeks, and then it was like, well, we'll wait and see. We'll ride it out to the end of the season. We'll see how it goes. I think things will get better. And they already didn't like Ten Hag, and he already didn't trust Ten Hag, and he already didn't like the communication with Ten Hag, and he'd already planned to get rid of Ten Hag. You know what I mean? And then, Omar had to step in and say, okay, my ass is on the line if we don't make a change here. Let's go get something done. That's what happened. It'll happen again. Okay? It'll happen again if things don't improve. It will happen again. We're not at that drama point that we were. We were there a lot sooner last year because they, already pre-planned to move on Ten Hag, obviously. And it was a bit of like a, we didn't hire him, he's not our guy type of thing.
Apart from Glasner,
we're not there
who
yet.
else is suitable if he leaves for this 3 at the back system?
I was thinking about it, and here's the problem you're going to have between now and January, okay? I don't think there's anybody that will fit what we have now, because most, if not all of them, let's say we switch to a back 3. You tell me which manager's system fits, Casemiro, like Bruno and I don't know, Ugarte or Mount or something, or Mainu. You tell me which fits the slowest, oldest, least intense midfield in the Premier League. Just tell me which one fits that. And then you're going to go to 3. And you're going to have 3 slower, older, less intense midfielders on the pitch. Because most of the people are naming was there. Like, someone was asking me last night, would I still take Pochettino? And I was like, I actually really liked what he did at Chelsea, by the way. But I was like, he would come into this team today. You'd probably work wonders with Patrick Dorgu because he's like the fullback whisperer. But if you're asking him to set up the midfield, he'd probably be losing his mind in like 5 seconds. Because it's the opposite of how he's always had his midfield. So he would just fail regardless. Yeah, you did. You got him good, Jason, with that one. Good job. So you're still going to have to go and buy more midfielders. And you can say that they'll change it and make it more compact and all of that. Okay. We'll see, man. But anyway, we're not at that stage at this point in time. With the ownership, but we can be. It's possible to get to that stage with the ownership. It's possible to get to that stage, where he's fed up with how long things are taking, with the results not improving, with things like that. He's definitely, it doesn't take too long to get to that point. And I think the one thing, like going to the stats discussion for just a moment here, on this point, and then we'll talk about the potential midfielder name. He came up the other day when we were looking in some numbers, and I've kind of been thinking about him. And then there was a report today that may actually have some general credence in it, which is that one of the funny things about stats is, like, we talk about stats, right? And the thing is like take this financial discussion. When I talk about finances, if somebody responds, wow, well, can the finances win a game? I don't care, man. It's a different discussion. We're talking about 2 different things. If we talk about stats, it's also a little bit of a different thing. If people think that it's all on the manager, right? You should be really, really wary of not looking at the good stats. Like, whatever you think the problem is, writing off good stats is a stupid thing to do, because if you have good players, you should be producing some good stats regardless. You should. If you have good players, you should be producing some good statistics. Some things should be working. Some things should be possible, right? It isn't 100% the manager. There's 11 players on the pitch. If you have good players, you should be able to produce some stats. If you think it's all Emeram's fault, and you're trying to write off all of the stats, then it's pointless to change managers because you're saying that the players are incapable of producing anything, that they're not good, that they can't do anything. If you want to change managers, your argument should be, look, we've got guys who are creating some good stats. We've got guys who are doing some good stats. We've got some guys who are doing some good things. If we change managers, it should get better. If you start saying we have none, then there's no fucking point in changing managers because then that means the players are absolutely horrific. Okay? The fact that they haven't been able to produce anything. And to be fair, it's the same thing with wins. It's the same thing with wins. This was kind of my point on watching some of the players like like Kvaratskhelia and such go score that goal. Who at United is going to score that goal, man? Who at United is going to do something like that? Who at United is just going to go do something? You know what I mean? Go score a goal. Go make something happen. None. None of our players will do that either. And that is a little bit of an issue. We should have game match winners. Either way, we should have match winners. It's not all on the manager. We should have match winners. Where are the match winners? Where are they in the team? That is as much a concern, in my opinion, as well. We need match winners. We need players who are actually going to produce, score goals, and take the game by the throat and win it. Because I see Liverpool play like shit, but they have match winners. You know what I mean? Environmental issue? It may well be, but that's not just on the manager. You know what I'm saying? It really isn't, by the way, because that's been an issue for a while. I think some of the guys we got, like Cunha, can be that guy. They can be. Ahmad can be that guy. Mbumo can be that guy. But we do need that to a degree. We're just not getting it at the moment, and that is definitely not helping the situation, okay? We do need some match winners showing up and doing something with the team. You know, if it's all just the manager, then you're going to be having... then you should still be seeing some guys coming out with individual brilliance. We don't even have individual brilliance anymore. We don't even have individual brilliance anymore. What happened? I would kill for a little bit of individual brilliance to bail us out right now. I would kill for that. Our match winner hasn't been Bruno for a long time, by the way. And he hasn't been in there in big games for a long time. The last match winner we did have was Marcus Rashford. That's the truth. That was the last player who was really a match winner. It was not Bruno. Bruno's never really been the match winner. Okay? The guy who was Marcus Rashford. Big games, he would show up. Casemiro has been a little bit more of a match winner at times in a funny way. He did it in some big games, some of those headers, things like that. Look at Lyon, for example. The comeback. Casemiro, huge part of it. Mental. He doesn't have the legs, but it's mentality. Match winner. He is a match winner. He just doesn't have the legs anymore to do it. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the legs to do it anymore in the midfield, but he does have the mentality for it. And he is a winner. That's why he won everything at Real Madrid. I think we've got some guys who do that, but we're going to need that. We're going to need that no matter what. It literally doesn't matter who's there. We do need some match winners in this team to step up when things are down. You know, it is funny, like that Ronaldo season, 17 goals he scored. He won a lot of matches. Even old Ronaldo, when he came back for us, he won a lot. Go back to COVID, but that's 5 years, man. It hasn't been that. I didn't say he isn't or never was. I said he hasn't been for a long time. He hasn't been for a long time. It's been ages. It's been ages in there. Mainu has been a match winner at times, and that's why, of course, I think he should be playing right now too, because we do need guys who can do that. We do need guys who can do that. We do need guys who will step up when it really matters. We just don't have them at the moment. Like, you take the Europa League final. Where was it, man? Where was it? Where there was nobody to just take it and say, I'm going to get a goal out of this game with all that possession, all of that stuff, all of that everything. We just haven't had it. You know? We just haven't had it for some time. And it should really be, you know, forwards for the most part. You should have some forward who can go and do that and make it happen. You know, yes, Mainu was looking good in the end against City. You know, and that's why I always kind of go a little bit back and forth on Casemiro, because I'm always like, he's kind of crap right now. But he does tend to do something when it matters. You know what I mean? Like, when things matter, he steps up. He's a big game player for the most part. And yeah. Yeah, I know. Casemiro has stepped up in big games his time at United. The only one really was the Europa League final. He really didn't do much, but you know, I mean, it is what it is. But regardless of any of that, yeah, results have to catch up soon. We do have some midfield. You know, we know that we're looking at the midfield. We know that that's something that we're going to look at. Now, a new name kind of came up in the media, which was Yarmouk, came out today. Now, you have to bear in mind with Yarmouk, who is the midfielder at Brentford, young, 21 years old. He is a very, very strong dueler. He is a very, very strong ball winner. He's good on the ball. He's still developing. He's still growing. He's still maturing as a player, but he's very good. He's young. He's 21. You know, Brentford have a pretty good record in their respects of developing players. It should also be noted that we did just hire Brentford's academy director. Am I wrong? We did just hire Brentford's academy director, and you know, we did just hire him, so we will know him. He will know him very well, and it will help. Imagine we had Gravenberch in a midfield. I know, Hamza. That's exactly, would be so perfect. It'd be so perfect. It'd be so perfect. It still blows my fucking mind that we got the only guys from Ten Hag's team that we shouldn't have gotten and somehow missed on the actual good players. Like, criminal, man. Absolutely criminal. Will be torn apart by his first mistake, but yeah, we did. I believe we just hired the Brentford academy director. Isn't he the one that we reported? I didn't actually do any piece on it or video on it or even mention it, but yeah, we apprenticed Stephen Torpy, Brentford's academy director. So, you know, very likely he knows him extremely well. So there could be some real credibility in that. But yeah, this was reported August 21st. It's like a month-old info. It's like a month-old info that we hired him as the guy to replace, obviously, Nick Cox, right? He used to be at City as well. So another ex-City hire that we've brought in. So Yarmouk could be another name to add. And when I look at it, you know, I'm looking at, remember we're talking about how we're going to build this list of 6s up and 8s up and the players that we're going to look for and all of that, right? Baleba, Yarmouk, Buati, Yeoman, Wharton. That list is starting to pile up, and then it's going to narrow down at some point. And then we've got like Elliott, Anderson, and Ederson for potentially the 8s. So this is, I think, a link I want to look more into, but it could very much have some credibility to it at this point. And, keep growing that list of 6s, because in the end, we may need 2, we may need 2, or we may need 3 midfielders to be signed between, there's a world where we do, right? So yeah, that's something to look at. He's good. I like him. He's a growing player. He's an improving player. Let's see. Let's see if something more comes of that, or if he's just, one of the names on our list among the other. Yarmouk. Yeah, Yarmouk. So he's at Brentford now. You can look at his stats. They're not everything, because again, he plays in a Brentford side. The blue one is obviously it's like 4 games, right? He's a young player, but he's already looking very, very strong in winning the ball. His on the ball is good. You got to watch him. You got to watch him though. For sure, he's just not played enough for you to get a good read on stats alone. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I saw that link, and I can't remember, because we were looking at midfielders the other day, and I was saying this is the qualities they want, and we were looking at a chart, and his name kept showing up as like a player we should get. Let me see if it has me still logged in or not. And sorry to blind you guys, it's supposed to stay black, but it's like to look at a player that we should be getting. Previous, all right. And we were looking at like certain traits. So I think I was looking at like possessions, 1 lost per 90, like under 25s or something like that. And he shows up somewhere where I've got like minutes played or something. He hasn't played a lot of minutes, so it's messing with it. But he was on one of these charts in a good spot, and I'm blind, so I'm not seeing him. What am I missing? Oh, here he is. Possessions, 1 lost. And then I think I did like duels 1 percentage or something. I don't remember. Either way, he's a good player. There was a couple of things that I was looking at. He plays for Brentford. Yeah, he plays for Brentford. He's a good young player, one to certainly watch. I think his qualities and how he's growing as a player definitely fit the profile that we are looking for in that position. So in that sense, definitely I would say one to keep an eye on, that we could end up going for, end up recruiting moving forward. But the other thing that I got to tell you guys is that, like I said, you've seen some other people confirm it now. There is absolutely nothing in the talk of Ruben Amorim's replacement. At the moment, there is no looking at candidates. The names are all nonsense at this point, all of them. They're not looking at him. They're not talking to him. They're not doing that at this point in time. They're certainly not looking at Glasner at the moment. I can tell you that. But yeah, so just by the way. And look, the reason I say this is like, it does get a little bit boring, right? Like, even if today I thought we should change managers, they're not changing manager right now. I'm not asking you to shelve it. I'm not asking you to not talk about it, but it is boring if we're flooding every single comment and every single video and every single discussion with, it's not, well, no point talking about it because the manager's here. I got like this with Ten Hag even last season. There was a point last season where I was like, I didn't want Ten Hag to stay at all. I was fully Ten Hag out. And there was a point early in the season, I was like, guys, can we just shut the fuck up? In general, can we just stop? Because I knew he's not going anywhere for at least a few weeks, a little longer. Even in summer, I was like, all right, I want him gone. And when they turned around and kept him, and it was still like everybody was talking about it, and it just kept going on and on and on and on. And I was just like, can we just stop like for a little bit, just so we can actually discuss it? Just so we can actually like discuss other things, because there's nothing happening on that front today. It's not happening. So we can talk about like what we should pick as a team, some interesting things, what we're going to look forward to. If you don't like him so much that you just want to tune out until he's gone, then fair enough. But it's like, I don't want to discuss it every single day and just get into every comment becomes about it and everything like this. And you talk about a different subject, doesn't matter. Talk about a different subject, doesn't matter. It's boring. It's just boring because it's not changing. It's not changing. If it's changing, we can talk about it and we can speculate and we can do all of that. After a game, we can talk about it. Were there mistakes being made? What went wrong? These kinds of things, all of that kind of stuff. But I just don't want to have it be the entirety of every subject where we can't talk about anything else. I would like to talk about anything else. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And that's what I want to do. It was interesting, by the way. One of the things that was interesting, and I am going to bring up some stats now, is I did see somebody talking about like things like with XG, about how a lot of XG is being accumulated by players in like defensive positions and things like that, like defenders, you know what I mean? And how so our XG is actually fake because we're not getting it to the right people. Again, I want to be able to talk about what is actually the issues. Maybe we can nail it down. Maybe we can agree. Maybe we cannot. But I'd like to be able to look at it because I still feel like we're not getting to the actual issue of what's wrong. Because every day it becomes, it's this issue. No, it's this issue. Well, now it's this issue. Well, now this is actually the reason we're bad. You know what I mean? And then you look at it and it's like, well, wait, maybe that's not. I'll give you the example, right? Because I was talking about fullbacks recently and people are going, we just had this discussion the other day, right? About how I was saying, we need Patrick Dorgu to be Ryan Giggs. And I was like, well, yeah. You watch PSG today? Their fullbacks are their best players. I mean, maybe João Neves is, but their fullbacks are their best attackers. Look at the amount of touches to Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, right? So let's say you were to change manager and bring in someone like Enrique. Guess where the ball's going, my friends? To the fullbacks. Guess who are going to be involved in all the goals? The fullbacks. We need really, really, really good fullbacks. We need really good fullbacks. It's not a problem for PSG that their fullbacks are the ones getting into attacking positions constantly because they have insane fullbacks. Big chances created, assists, goals, every single game, all of that kind of stuff. That they have good fullbacks. They have absolutely insane fullbacks. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what they do. Game in and out. Nuno Mendes and Hakimi absolutely carried that PSG team through the Champions League as well last season. Hakimi was probably their best player, in my opinion, when I watched it. Said that last year as well. So it's kind of like, look, that's one of those things where it's like, no, that's now the problem. No, it's not really the problem. If they didn't have Hakimi, they wouldn't be nearly as good. If they didn't have Nuno Mendes, they wouldn't be nearly as good. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, we do need players of that quality. You don't just say, well, shit, guess, not going to work. We do need players of that quality. We do need players of that quality. That is the answer. When you look at teams that have players of that quality, it's not a problem when they're getting the ball to the fullbacks and they have attack that can come through everywhere. It certainly helps that they have much better midfielders at the moment and much better, at the moment, good wide players. But like, imagine you drop Dallo in here. He's going to, they're the two best fullbacks in the world. I know, but that's kind of what we need to do. The point being is like, my view on it is that if we're getting the ball to, if you're looking at the team playing and saying the ball's we need a world-class player in that position, to me the answer is not don't get the ball in that position. It's get a world-class player. Because if you can get players in optimum positions where they're open, where they can deliver a final ball and do of that, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing, right? If you can do that, that is a good thing. And teams will look at that and say, cool, let's use that and just get the best player in the world for that position. Just do it. That's my view on any position. If we watch our team, I look at that, and that's why I say, yeah, we need a really, really good central center back because they've got a big job on their hands. Okay, we need a really good 6 because we have a lower numbers in the midfield and all of that. We need a really, really good number 10 because they need to drop in and support and add to the midfield and things like that. And that's just the way that I see it. And I think that will be true for any and all managers. If we pick, like I say, if we pick Enrique, and you're going to say because of what he's doing, let's say you hired Enrique because of what he was doing at PSG. You wouldn't, maybe you would. I disagree on this front. Maybe you would tell him, come in and do something totally different. Forget why we hired you. Come in and do something totally different. Do something totally different. Don't do what was so successful for you at PSG. Do something totally different. Well, imagine you brought Enrique in now, where he's used to having one of the most insane workhorses in football in the middle and 2 of the best fullbacks in the league. You'd still have to go buy those players for him. You'd still have to go buy those players for him to do anything. Or you're telling him, abandon what you did that worked and come here and do something different. That would be stupid. I think we could all agree. If you were to hire Enrique, you'd be hopefully telling him, we want you to replicate what you did at PSG. We had this old argument about Ten Hag, right? Where it was like Ten Hag was not told to come in and do what he did at Ajax. He didn't come in to do what he did at Ajax. And people were like, wait, what the fuck? That's why fans wanted you. That's why fans wanted to hire you. So you could do what you did at the club that was there, that was successful. So what pieces do you need to do that? Instead, we just did something totally different. This is how we all felt until people changed their minds just based on the way the wind blows. If we were to bring in a top coach like Enrique, we would ideally want to bring in world-class players in those same positions. You know what I mean? We would ideally want to do that, right? The other thing was this thing about XG and like who's getting your XG. And I saw something that was like, well, it doesn't count because United are getting a lot of low quality chances from their forwards, and all the high quality chances are coming from defenders. Guys, that's true of every single team in football. If you look at Arsenal's forwards, Victor Gyökeres, that's one good one. One player near the top of their XG per shot. Okay, this is like, what are the quality of your shots? One forward, Saka, who's only played 1.5 games. And then you're going down to incredibly low shot quality out of their forwards, okay? They only have one. The rest are defenders because defenders get fewer shots and they're higher quality, usually off of set pieces. If you go to Liverpool, their highest quality chances are coming from Konate. So this thing about, the best chances are falling to the wrong players, it's everybody, dude. That's how football works. Now, they have one good forward who regularly plays up there, which is Ekitike, which is quite impressive. You look at the rest of it, Chiesa. Then you go down, Salah's getting terrible opportunities. He's just scoring. Wirtz is getting worse. Gakpo's getting worse. Szoboszlai worse. McAllister worse. Their forwards are getting terrible opportunities. From a shots perspective, their defenders are getting most of the best chances. Then you go to United. It's the similar story. Casemiro is our best XG per shot. Mbeumo was up there. Then it's Lenny Yoro. But we actually have more forwards getting good XG per shot than Liverpool, Arsenal, and Arsenal. We have 4 of our forwards who are getting over 0.1, which is actually better than most teams. The point to this being, the ball is not just falling to the wrong people. This is, again, not the issue. There are issues when we're not winning games, but people are convincing themselves of things are wrong that are not what is wrong. The chances are not falling to the wrong people. That's not the issue, okay? You can argue we're not making enough of them. I agree with that. But the chances are not magically falling to the wrong people, okay? That's not what is happening. The best chances for us are about the equivalent of every other team. Yeah, LFC and Arsenal defenders are getting from... It's same for us. Same for us, Luciano, because our highest is Casemiro and Lenny, and those are both from set pieces. Okay? So Dorgus is way down the list. He's not like getting these high XG chances or something like that. You know? So the ball is not like magically falling to these great opportunities for other players. And neither are our forwards actually getting these low-quality chances. They're getting better chances right now than most teams, but not converting. We need more chances, no doubt about that. But it is factual that our forwards are getting better chances than most teams' forwards right now. That's just the truth. Salah has 2 goals on like 1/3 of the chances of any of these guys at the moment. You know, I think the only guy doing better is probably like Ekitike. Ekitike is getting some really good chances at the moment, which is good for him. Sucks for us, and hate that. That's the truth of it. So that to me is, again, kind of like not the issue. You know what I mean? It's just not. It's not the problem. It's not the issue. It's not the thing that I would say is the problem or the thing that's wrong or any of like that. Yeah, I know. Apparently 3. Yes, I know. Vicky. I know. The problem I still see is mostly, and this is I think why even it's still his job, but this is why I think why Amorim looks at it as a mentality factor. Football's going back to flying fullbacks. It is. Gusto assists Palmer. Yeah, like flying fullbacks is essentially the meta in football right now. Most of the best teams do it. You can't have passengers. You do need those fullbacks to be good. You can't get away with it. It's a big part of football. Overloads and attacking the wide areas and things like that. I can see why Ruben Amorim goes on about the mentality aspect and says it's a mental issue and it's this and that. Because if you look at it realistically, our forwards are, compared to others, getting as good chances as the other teams are and not scoring them. You can make an argument that is a mental issue. We do have the tools to be better. We should be better. Our forwards are getting better chances on average than Liverpool's, Arsenal's, and City's. And we're not scoring goals. You can make the argument that is a mental issue. Additionally, we make massive blunders defensively still. We just do. Some of it may be organizational. Some of it is player selection. And some of it is just mental issues. And defending is highly, highly mental. Some of it is just that. We make disastrous issues. We give up huge chances when we give up chances, not small ones. And that has been actually true, by the way, unfortunately, for a while. And that is something he hasn't actually fixed. We reduced the number of chances that we concede, the number of shots that we concede, but we tend to give up some pretty big chances when we give up chances. And I do think that some of that is mental, some of it's organizational, and some of it's just the fact that, you know, we have ungodly slow midfielders that are being picked week in and week out. That's definitely a factor, and Luke Shaw and things like that. You know, that's not very good. That's not helpful. But those are some of the issues that we look at, you know, and I do think there is a lot of credibility to the mental issues. Now so how are you going to fix it? That tends to be my question. For me, the only way you do fix it mid-season, these kind of mental issues, one is you do a clean house and all of that. The only other way you fix it is you really do have to make it a highly competitive environment. Because in theory, these guys who have made it to top level all have strong mental facilities, competitive spirit. And anybody who doesn't shouldn't be there. Ideally, you create a strong, competitive environment that is highly meritocratic and highly values focus and mentality. So if a player is weak, if a player is not showing the right intensity, if the player is lackadaisical, you have to be willing to pull them instantly. You have to. Okay? You have to be willing to put somebody else on who's hungry, who will focus, who will be mentally strong, who will be mentally tough, who will be there. Like I look at De Ligt. He was making mistakes last year. I pointed them out in the video I did right before. He's done really well this year. He's focused. He's raised those levels. He's hungry. He fights. He's working to improve. I don't have the concern about him. There are others who aren't doing that. You can't make a competitive culture when certain players get picked regardless of performance. I agree. That's what I'm saying. You have to be able to. And yes, I'm talking about Bruno, and not just Bruno, because there are plenty of others who are underperforming, who make those mistakes. Heaven should be playing over Shaw regardless right now, because Shaw can't stay focused. You got to change that immediately. Instantly. The instant a player, those levels, those mental levels drop, you're out. You have to demand, you don't have to demand perfection in execution, because it's never going to be perfect. But you have to demand perfection in mentality. You have to. That has to be uncompromising. Nobody's perfect. None of them are going to be perfect all the time. None of them are going to execute all the time. None of them are talented enough that they're going to be great every game and not make mistakes and errors. But you have to punish mentality. And you have to demand the highest of standards from a mental standpoint, from a focus standpoint. You have to reward people who have they're laser focused on winning and on doing things the right way. I'll give you, for example here, right? I think Mazraoui has a great mentality, and I think he's playing him out of position to his detriment, and he still works as hard as he can, tries as hard as he can, does as much as he can. That's why I like him. So put him back where the fucking guy won't focus, where the guy loses track of play every 3 seconds, and help him out. You know what I mean? That's what I want to see, that kind of thing. You know, those are the things that can be done to change and reward players who are focused and all of that. It doesn't even have to be Heaven. It could be Mazraoui where Luke Shaw plays, or swap sides. It doesn't matter to me. You've got a guy who I think is always focused in Mazraoui, but just you're putting him in the wrong position where he doesn't have the tools to succeed. Put him in the other position, you know? But that, I think, is the best way that we can create, you know, a culture of strong mentalities and things like that. There has to be rewards and penalties. And I said this before, and I'm very curious to see what happens against Chelsea. I said before that I only ever see Ugarte get punished. And again, people take this as this constant defense or something, or like this statement that Ugarte is great. He's the only one who ever gets punished, and it doesn't actually make sense, because I see him for the most part working the hardest, even if he's failing at certain things, and I think it sends the wrong message. Like, he tends to be the only one who gets punished, and that's what I want to see on Saturday. Because I can understand if you drop Ugarte. I can understand it. If you were to go to Casemiro, Mainu in a midfield, I can understand it. You go, all right, we're changing the whole midfield out. But here's what I can't understand. If you go, if he ends up getting dropped, and Bruno and Shaw and even Bayindir are still there, and you still keep, you know, Ahmad at the 10 and Matt, like, if you don't change a bunch of things, then it doesn't make sense. He was okay against City, and he did work very hard and covered a lot of ground. I'm not saying you can't swap him out for a better player, What I'm saying is, he cannot be. You cannot just only punish him, because then you're saying the mental aspect of it is meaningless. And the guys who can get away with it because you think they're better players, fuck that. I will never agree to that. And that will be the thing. If there is a thing that turns me, it will be that. Because I saw that with Ten Hag and Fred, okay? And you can call me crazy, all right? Fred, in those big games, let's say, in big games for Ten Hag in that first season, showed up when it mattered. Barcelona, in the Europa League games, at Barcelona, in against Tottenham, in some big city. He did it time and time again for Solskjaer too. In big games, he would show up. And Ten Hag dropped him for Sabitzer in the next round of the Europa League, and we got dumped out of it. And then he sold him that summer, and we stopped really being good in big games. Because you lost and essentially punished a player for a good mentality. Even if he doesn't have all the qualities, you cannot punish players for good mentalities who put in that energy, that intensity. You know? That is something I can't see. And it gave me a huge red flag when he did it at the end of the season for the Europa League final. I said, why did you play Casemiro Ugarte all the way to the final and then change it? That felt wrong. I see somewhat of a similar thing here, and it will be a thing that makes me lose a lot of trust, because when the chips are down, you can't only, like, my point is, who only gets punished? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you can't make changes. I'm not saying you should play Ugarte. I'm saying look at everybody else involved in that. And there are players who you have to change, or you are sending an awful message, and you are allowing mental standards to drop to the bottom. That's why I'm comparing the two things. And that will turn me off. Like, we go into Chelsea, and I'll look at it, and I'm like, if certain players are still playing, then to me it's like, great. Because the thing is, yeah, maybe they'll be like, oh, okay, I'll turn it around one game. But if there are no consequences for losing your head, no consequences for losing focus, then they will not change for the long haul. And you will not fix that culture in the dressing room. I'd like to see some different things in there. The only other thing I wanted to yap about was, once again, a little bit of a tactics thing, because I'm still so irritable about this, like, whole dialogue over overloading the midfield, because I just think it's something people have decided, and the jumping center backs, it's something people have decided, and once they've decided it, they're not going to let it go, and they don't have to let it go, but I think they can only see it. And I want to tell you something that's really, really funny, okay, which is that, like, the way United attack, the way we attack other teams and all our successes comes from overloading the midfield and making center backs jump, right? You've seen me go over this chart a million times, right? Ball goes to one side, player shifts out, 10 drops. What is that doing? It's adding to the midfield. Center back jumps, number 9 runs in behind, or defense shifts over, and you create an overload by dragging a center back and adding to the midfield. The only difference between Amram's midfield overload in attack and anybody else's, because every single team wants to attack by using rotations to drag defenders out of position, right? Every single team does it, including United. And whenever United do it, nobody goes to Burnley and says, your back four doesn't work because your center backs have to jump and they're getting out of position. And you're losing overloads. All those attacks we got against City were from dragging the center backs forward. You know what I mean? All of them were from the 10s dropping in, Ahmad dropping in, dragging the players forward, and getting run into the spaces. Every one of our attacks was based upon overloading the midfield. Every one of our attacks is based upon dragging center backs. Every single one of them. Every team does it. Every single team does it. Every single team's main tactic, not every team's main tactic, most teams do the same thing. They use rotations to drag into the middle, to drag defenders out of the back into the middle and try to exploit the space behind. It's literally our primary method of attack. Okay? That is exactly what happens. Okay? It's the same thing. We overload the midfield in the same way when we're attacking. Now, out of possession, what people keep calling a midfield overload, I just don't agree with. I keep seeing people say it. What'll happen is, like in this game, Rodri's here, Šeško's here, Ahmad is like over here, and then like what will happen is like Nico O'Reilly will come in and they'll say, "Oh, overloaded the midfield." No, yeah, obviously, because it's man to man. You just need the player to follow them. It's not that complicated. The player's just supposed to follow them. And if you watch how we actually lost, it all becomes random because Bruno doesn't understand pressing triggers when he was pressing Rodri. The press to Rodri was supposed to come at completely different times than when it came in. Or Doku drops in. Every team can do this. It doesn't matter if you have 3. Let's say you have 3 and you're playing a 4 at the back, right? Every single team can do this. Look, now you have a free man out here because you're playing 4 at the back, because this is how 4 at the back teams defend. You have a free man out here who can drift in, and you're still overloaded. You still have an overload. It's the same thing. Players have to follow. Look, this is the exact same movement against the 4 at the back. Doku drops here. Nico O'Reilly comes inside. You still have the same overload if your players don't track, because you play basically a man-to-man press. It doesn't look better. This isn't better. This isn't better. This is the same overload. This is 4 versus 2 on this side. Okay, because this guy will sit out here and keep this one wide. You're creating a 4v2 on this side anyway. If you're playing in a 3 and your press triggers to run to Rodri, look what happens when you press him. You've opened up the midfield just as poorly. It's the same story. You just have to follow players. You just have to actually track players. It's not really that complicated at the end of the day. But it's the press. It's the random pressing. Yes, look, if you don't follow players, look at what you do, but why would you do this? Why would you do this? We had a 4-2-3-1 and we were getting overloaded all the time last season. It's just about legs, energy, properly pressing, tracking, doing things like that. That's the biggest thing. They have to understand what the hell they're supposed to do. Like, all that happened on the goal, for what it's worth, and it would be cool to dialogue, to kind of lay this out, because I showed it in pictures. So here, I'll show you the exact way the goal happens, and then you can tell me what you think. Okay? Because this is literally how it happens, okay? The ball's not even at Rodri's feet, by the way. Rodri's here. Foden is right here, and Bruno is on Foden. Šeško is right next to Rodri, and Ugarte is on Reinders. Now, Haaland comes here. This is here. Now, what happens? Doku comes all the way up here. Lenny gets right next to him. Here's what happens. Okay? Bruno just runs off. He thinks Lenny is coming to get Foden because he does not have good scanning. When Lenny is actually standing next to Doku. He comes up around Foden when he sees Doku drop, and he goes into this position, and he backs up from Foden and stands next to Doku. That's it. This is where we are, okay? Randomly, and he doesn't even press Rodri, by the way. He doesn't. Watch the goal that happens. He doesn't press Rodri. He doesn't press anyone. That's why you know he doesn't know what he's saying, okay? We have numbers. Look, we have an extra player over here. And Mbumo is like up here. This player's up here. We're fine. We're fine. All he does is he randomly moves in between Rodri and Foden. He doesn't press Rodri, and he doesn't mark Foden. And then the ball goes to Foden. This isn't like this tactical fucking nightmare that is being made out. It's not that complicated. Football isn't this complicated. It just isn't. You can say Foden was a pressing trigger. Fine. I can show you 3 times, or Rodri was a pressing trigger. I can show you 3 times earlier when Bruno just takes off randomly to press. And then after Rodri runs to the next guy, doing this ping pong thing. Just watch the goal back yourself and you'll see this is exactly what happens. Foden goes like this. Doku goes like this. Yoro comes here and then drops next to Doku. And Bruno just walks off from Foden. He just walks off. He does not see that Lenny has another player to mark. He doesn't see it. And he doesn't even press Rodri. And Šeško is next to Rodri anyway. And then the pass just comes through and they just run down the pitch. This shit isn't that complicated. They were standing in a man-to-man situation. It wasn't a press. There wasn't a pressing trigger. They were in a mid-block. This wasn't some confusing situation. You're just in a mid-block. Just watch it yourself. Don't get your opinions from other people. Just watch it. I'm just telling you, you can see this is exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. And it's not every pundit. There's plenty who called out what Bruno did on this and said he's just losing his man. He doesn't have the legs and things like that. Just watch it for yourself without a preconceived notion about this overload. The players are the exact positions I've drawn to you here. Tell me how it's an overload. Tell me why he should move here. It doesn't make sense. There's zero reason for it. He just leaves his mark. And he doesn't even press. This is the first goal that City score. Just watch it yourself. While you're here, afterwards, doesn't matter. Just watch it. You know what? Wait. I'm going to show you. Because it's really, really, really funny. Because I think I can do I'm going to show you the goal. Because it's a stream FF link, right? Which I can do. Oh, no, it's not going to go back far enough, is it? Unlucky. I mean, even here, by the way, this is Doku and Lenny right here. You know, that's them right there. So like, you can even see at that point in time that it's that like he's Lenny is on Doku and this is Bruno on Foden. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. They're blocking the passing angles until Foden gets through. Rodri's not even in the frame. I'll try to find a different one. I wish that I could, but it's unfortunately hard to find it. But it is literally that stupid. That's what I'm talking about. I've just showed you on the screen 12 times how they got the ball into our half. It's this right here. Lenny Yoro is on Doku. Bruno is on Foden, and he just walks off from him. People love to overcomplicate things. They absolutely love to overcomplicate things. Yeah, look at the overload. They have 7-5. You cannot go back any further. This is the point. This is where they are. This was like from a goal kick or something. It's something really, really basic, or from us turning the ball over. I can't go back any further. You clearly didn't. Because I'm literally putting it in pictures for you. It's in picture format for you right now. Exactly what I can't change everything. You know what I mean? You know, I can't do anything else more for you to do it. I have to do it 50 more times to show you what actually happened. You know? I'll try to find it and see if I can show you as well. All right. I'm going to find it and you're going to laugh. It's terrible. All right, hold on. I'm on it now. Give me 2 seconds. So Mazraoui does a foul. They have a free kick. All right, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Here you go. We can start with this. Oh, of course it's not going to work. God, I hate this app so much. I do recommend, by the way, looking at this for yourself and just watching it. and you'll see everything. Because it's really not that complicated. Like, nothing in football is actually that complex, to be quite honest. Like, a lot of it is made out to be more complicated than it is. And I think it makes people feel good to think like that it is super, super complicated. Because then you got to be like really, really smart. Okay, watch. Okay, let's see. Let me pull it up on the screen and I will show you the goal. Here's Bruno. There. You see Lenny comes up. Gonna play it off for a few seconds. Okay, now look. Now look. He's on Foden. Do you see this? This is a few seconds later. He's on Foden. He just walks off. Do you notice that? He's not pressing Rodri. Did you see what just happened? Okay. It's so funny. It's so funny watching people like ignore what they're actually watching with their eyes and claim it's something else. Look. Watch. He's on Foden. Watch him. He just forgets about him. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. He just forgets him. This isn't this complicated, shit. He's on Foden, and he just turns around and loses him. He doesn't press Rodri. The ball's not at Rodri's feet. Nothing is happening. He just walks off. So I will not buy for a single second what people are trying to sell. Because I can look with my eyes. and then Foden, no, it's even worse. Ready? And then Foden scores from the halfway line. It's even worse. Okay, here. It's even worse. Look. He's on Foden again. Okay. Look, he's on Foden. And he just forgets about him. He just forgets about him. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to add on this. If you can't see it, then you just don't want to. But I'm not buying what people are selling because they're just bullshitting. They're just bullshitting. They just want it to be a certain way, and it ain't. You want it to be one way, but it's the other way. Just to quote my friend from The Wire. You want it to be the one way, but it's the other way. No, Ugarte is actually in the passing lane between the ball and Reindeers, which he was doing for most of the game. It's literally this. I just showed you it on the screen. And Ugarte blocks Daku's first cross, exactly. He's blocking Reindeer's passing lane here, who's like behind him. And then he gets back and blocks Daku later on. That's all that happens. There's nothing more complicated than this. So you do what you must, believe what you want to believe. But if you can't actually see what's in front of your eyes, then I don't know. But that's how unfortunately, that's how a lot of analysis is done. People go into it wanting to find a tactical flaw, and so they try to claim it's tactics. What happened in Bruno's mind and what happened there was not the reality. Those are two totally different things. And it's really easy to see from above. He literally turns around, and then Foden steps away from him and gets the ball. And then Shaw does absolutely nothing. There's a few other people at fault in here, don't get me wrong. But that's all. That's it. There's nothing else to it. So, yeah, again, like I said, midfield overloads, it's cool. Everybody tries it. Everybody does it. Not what the problem was with that. It is not what else happens. There's nothing else even to discuss. Is that a tactical flaw if it keeps happening, though? It's a player flaw for sure. If you keep picking the player who's doing that, then that's on you. That's a strategy. I would call that a strategical flaw at that point in time. If you keep doing it, then that's on you. You are not getting it either, unfortunately. That's my point on it. You know, system this, system that. You're asking a player to mark a man. That's it. If you can't mark a man, then the midfield's always going to get overrun. That's all. It's just the reality of it. And if you keep picking someone who can't do it, then that's also on you. Because you do have options. You do have options. Okay, that's it, guys. I'm going to head out. Thanks for hanging out this evening. I will be back tomorrow for a couple things, the Trafford talk with Owen over on The View and all of that. So I will see you all later, okay? Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day, and catch you later. We're almost halfway through the week, so Saturday morning we'll be back for another game. But see you tomorrow, everyone. Thanks for hanging out today. Goodbye. Boom, 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 do 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 do.